Hey, what's up? John Sonmez from SimpleProgrammer.com. So the reason why I'm relaxing in this chair is because I'm going to go run tomorrow. I'm running a 5K race, and then I'm running a half marathon. I'm in San Jose here, and I thought it'd be appropriate to lounge around in a chair as I talk about wealth and status and rungs on a ladder. So anyway, actually, what I'm going to talk about today, I thought I'd do a video. I've sort of come up with this concept over some time about comparing sort of we're going into some politics here, some politics a little bit, but not specifics. But one economics. Let's talk about economics. That's what we're actually going to talk about, which is this idea of rungs on a ladder. So here's the thing. I think a lot of people. I did this video that kind of pissed off a lot of millennials, and I can see why. Maybe I was a little bit harsh, but you can check it out here. Again, and I would say, the thing is, like, I don't have anything against millennials. I have something against the people who self-identify with millennials and what they generally represent. Does that make sense? So you can be a millennial, and I'm rooting for you if you're a millennial. I want you to succeed. I want you to be honestly, and I say this 100% genuine to everyone, actually, especially you millennials. So is that I want you to be more successful than I am. I honestly do. That's why I'm making these videos. That's why I'm doing this. Is I honestly want you to be more successful, way more successful. I'm not even dog crap. I mean, there's people tons more successful than me. I don't even pretend, but I want you to be more successful than me. Okay, so I'm saying that out of love. Okay, and so don't mistake that. And so why am I caveating this? For those of you that know me, what is John about to drop? What kind of bomb? Well, here's the thing. So, again, I'm not going to totally equate this to millennials, but there tends to be this mindset, and we'll compare it to, a ladder that has rungs on it, right? And there tends to be this mindset of people that say, okay, you start out, let's say, climbing up the social hierarchy, the economic hierarchy, right? If you just took it at face value, right, and you didn't have any kind of manipulations in the system, totally kind of a free market type of system without any kind of intervention, which I know is not possible, but let's just paint the picture of what the ladder started with, right? The ladder started with just a regular ladder, and there were rungs on the ladder. And if you look at a ladder, they're evenly spaced rungs, right? So to climb up to the top, every single step on the ladder requires the same amount of effort. Now, like any ladder, the higher you get, the further you can fall, and the higher the risk is. But ignoring that aspect of it, climbing up the rungs should be kind of a uniform process, right? That's a normal ladder. Now, we don't have that ladder today. At least, again, I'm talking from a U.S.-centric viewpoint, right? Because that's where I am. But in the U.S., the ladder looks a little bit different, right? You can imagine probably each one of us probably has different ideas of what the ladder actually looks like. But there's certain people that what they want is they want the ladder to they want to say this, well, all those rungs that are way up there, I'm never going to get those rungs, so I don't need those rungs. So wouldn't it be better for everyone if we just took some of the rungs from the top and we moved them down so that the rungs on the bottom were less spaced apart? So it was easier to climb up the bottom of the ladder. I'm not worried what's up there. We can take, in fact, let's take the rungs out of the middle of the ladder and move them down. Okay, and this seems like a good idea. This is where we're kind of at right now, I think, economically in the United States, right? And if you are working a minimum wage job, you're flipping burgers, this seems like a great idea for you because you're thinking, hey man, I want the minimum wage raised. Hey man, I want to make more money. I want it to be easier for me to become middle class. I want it to be easier for me to get out of, quote, poverty, right? Even though many of us who are in, quote, poverty, many people who are in, quote, poverty have $700 cell phones. That's, I don't know. If you have a $700 cell phone, I'm not going to call you ever in poverty. But whatever, So many of those people, what they want to do, like I said, if you're in that condition, is you want to take the rungs out of the middle because you feel like you're never going to get to the middle, and you want to move them down. And this seems like a great idea, right? Because now you can get up there. Now you can get minimum wage raised. Now you can get, but you know what's going to happen, right? Is eventually you're going to run out of easy rungs. And you're going to be looking up, and all those rungs that you took out of the middle, right, or that you want to take out of the middle, you're going to realize that there's this huge gap between. You're going to say, how the hell do I get up to the next rung? It's going to require a ridiculous amount of effort. And that's the situation that we're in now, right? And this is, at least in the U.S., and it's becoming more and more so. More people are demanding to have rungs taken out of the middle and put to the bottom. Not even rungs taken out of the way top. And it doesn't even work that way, because those rungs that are way at the top, those ones can't be moved to the middle, to the bottom, right? It's only the middle rungs. That's the ones that are flexible, that can move around. The top ones are fixed, the bottom ones are fixed, the middle ones is what we can have. So we basically have these kind of two choices, which is that we have, those middle rungs. What can we do with those middle rungs? Do we move them down? Do we leave them where they are? Do we move them up? That's another interesting thing to do is, if we move them up or move them slightly up, now can we make it easier for you to climb once you reach a certain height? So again, I'm drawing out this analogy, but I think it is important to realize this and to think about this, because if you are one of those people, and I totally understand that viewpoint, right? Because you want what's best for you, right? I want what's best for me. We all want what's best for us. But we don't understand that when we take out those middle rungs and we move them down, that you're eventually going to get to that point, right? The easier it is for you to get up to that middle point, you're going to realize that, because right now in your mindset, right, if you have this mindset, what you're thinking that it would be so great if I could just make double what I was making, if I could just, hit this up to the middle spot. You don't ever think you could possibly make it up to the high spot, and you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. So, I tell you this, why? I don't know, because there are a couple of reasons. One, I've known a lot of people that have started off in the lower rung kind of area, and they've wanted those middle rungs moving down, okay? And they eventually got to this point where they hit middle class, and they hit sort of upper middle class, and now they realize the error of that. Now they're saying, holy crap, John, wow, once you get up to like the 39% tax bracket, it sucks. It's really hard to get past that, because the more you make, the more that gets taken from you. The more that you make, the more litigation you have, and the more business requirements and regulations you have imposed upon you, the more taxes. All of these things start to weigh you down and make it really, really hard for you to climb any higher on that ladder. You see what I'm saying? Whereas people that are really high up on that ladder, that have already made it to the tops of the ladder, it's not as much of a weight on them, because they've got regular uniform rungs again. It's just that big gap to get to that point. And so I know a lot of people that have gotten there. And so I would like to help you to understand, just to understand that, first of all, that you don't know what you don't know yet. When you get to where you think you want to end, that's going to be where you actually start. And that's where you're going to see this, and your view is going to change. And the reason why I'm telling you this, the second reason why, is because you need to understand this system that we currently have, right? Not just to keep it from getting worse, but because that's the mindset. You have to understand that while you're working and while you're trying to build up and you're trying to get up to some of those upper rungs, that you are going to hit a major struggle. This is why there's such a grind. And if you want to get it out of middle class, you are going to hit a major struggle. It is so hard. It is easy. It is relatively easy for you to get up there to a job paying $60,000, $70,000 a year. Even as a software developer, honestly, some of you don't believe me, but it is easy, relatively easy, to get up and make six figures. There's tons of people doing that. Trying to get past that. Try to make $200,000 a year. Really, really hard. Try to make $300,000. Really, really, really hard. You get to $400,000 or $500,000, it's easy to go up from there to $1 million. But that gap, that is what will kill you. And so, again, one is a political message, right? This is why this gap is bad, why removing those rungs from the middle is bad. But the second is just a warning to you, because I don't like it. You can agree with me. You can say, John, yeah, that's bullshit. Let's not remove those rungs from the, I don't want to call them lungs, but let's not remove those rungs from the middle and move them down. That's bullshit. Stop. Yeah, okay, let's go march or something. That's fine. But we're not going to change that, right? We can educate people, and people, whatever. Some of you are going to just downvote and whine like little babies. That's fine. We can't change it, but we can be prepared for it, right? I wasn't prepared for this shit. When I started to get up there and I hit that salary cap, and then I started to try to become an entrepreneur on my own, and I was investing in real estate, doing all this stuff, it was like, holy crap, this is hard. Like, I got stuck up there for a long time before I finally was able to hit that, cross that gap. So anyway, be prepared. Be ready for it. And know that if you want to make that leap, you're going to have to. That's why, again, I'll recommend a really good book on this, and then I'll wrap this up. The 10X Rule. I read this book. I recommended this book before by Grant Cardone. Really good book. He has a chapter in there about not being middle class, and it talks about this, and it talks a little bit about this problem. He doesn't call it the rungs of the ladder or talk about that part, but he says you got to 10X, and you are going to have to 10X your effort. I'm just giving you a warning so that you know, because I don't want you to get discouraged. I want you to make it and to jump that gap, and so you got to know this. So anyway, that's it. Feel free to flame away. I'm curious to see your justification for being, average or below average and not shooting for the stars. But, whatever. I would recommend that you never, ever aim for that you always aim high, that you're going to make it to the top of that ladder. Everyone should have that as a goal, because it is possible. It's just a lot of freaking hard work. So anyway, if you like this video, I have a request for you, which is to click the subscribe button below me. But at the bottom of the ladder, there is a subscribe button that you must click if you want to climb. All right. I'll talk to you next time. Take care.